classroom in, I don't know, 2001, 2, 4, I'm not even sure. It was a conservation class, and I actually went to 2 classes and I skipped it. And I don't think I ever went back to the class again. I ended up getting a C. Yeah. Well, I am from Rochester for Justice in Rochester, Minnesota. I don't know that initially he started using the word expert when he asked about introducing me. I don't know that I'm like myself an expert in much of anything. I know a great deal. Yeah, this is all I got as far as.
Can hear you.
You can't hear me at all?
It's very low, very low.
Okay. Maybe I'll just hold it like a microphone. But I'm a master of none. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert in anything. Except for maybe working with kids. I'm a coach full time. I coach fencing, basketball, chess, soccer, lacrosse, flag football, basketball. Am I missing track? And that's what I do in my side job. But otherwise, when it comes to Rochester for Justice, I'm the president, one of the founders. My wife over here is also one of the founders. We work in black civil rights and amongst the community. We also have a healthy relationship with our police department, which isn't always seen in some of the Black Lives Matter organizations. One of the reasons that we call ourselves Rochester for Justice was actually to separate ourselves to a certain extent from the negative stigma that is associated immediately when you say Black Lives Matter. But there's no better evidence for the fact that this is an issue when just simply saying the words that your life matters becomes controversial. So, I should get to my speech before I go over time. Oh, it looks like they're having technical difficulties. I was worried about this. Your favorite sport? What's your favorite smell? I don't think I'll have an opportunity to do that here, but it's always a good way to get people involved in what's going on. Sometimes you get in a place like this and you're speaking to people, it drones away. Okay, so it just started, or? Yep. Okay, hopefully I got it timed up right. The film we just watched is very astutely described what we've seen through small and large police forces throughout rural and urban America. This problem started somewhere. To describe that, I have to relate a few topics in a relatively short period of time. I have to discuss the rampant expansion of militarization in a couple of interconnected ways. Like that this militarization is not only happening on American soil. I also intend to discuss that a militaristic and violent format for crime prevention has attached itself to the culture of our nation. I want to paint a picture that describes a sort of violent, racist, and fearful pathology in American culture in the relationship to policing. While there have been some influx in the form of billions of dollars of advanced equipment, military-style tactics, and training in our local police forces, it has also been part of American world politics. Not only is this militarization connected to the United States history of colonialism and imperialistic conquest, it is also integrated in our popular culture and social consciousness. When we ask why, we often focus our thinking around the idea that there's been a rise in crime rates. It's easier to believe that crime rate is linked to police expansion and militarization. In this case, I think we are wearing blinders to what could rightfully be described as a national culture of unwarranted fear. Crime rates are not snowballing, mounting, soaring, or even skyrocketing. Similarly, cases of these crimes where people assault or kill police officers have not been increasing over the last 20 years. That is statistically untrue. And there's a mountain of evidence that supports that police officers' jobs are in fact getting safer, and that most American cities are really nice places. They are less likely to be riddled with the sort of crimes we all generally regard as the most frightening. We would be talking about violent crime like kidnapping, assault, rape, and murder. America is actually safer than it has ever been. Here at home, criminal violence is still a serious problem, but its reduction over the past couple of decades is actually one of the great success stories of our time. The violent crime rate has actually declined by more than 70% since the early 1990s. The homicide rate has declined by half, and in 2011, it reached its lowest level since 1963. When it comes to police officers killed in the line of duty, despite the figures from this year, statistics show that being a police officer has gotten safer over the past 4 decades. During the 1970s, averages of 127 police officers were fatally shot, according to the Memorial Fund and FBI statistics. Since then, the death toll has continued to decline, falling by more than half to 53 officers fatally shot each year in the past decade. So how do Americans celebrate this extraordinary success? By denying it. The U.S. since 2001 has engaged in the spread of militarization and imperial expansion that has fundamentally changed the discussion on world politics. It's as if we've been seized by the same imperialist urge we saw in the 1890s when we began our century-long ascent to world dominance through military might and not through humanitarian and democratic mastery. In the context of military mobilization, U.S. armed forces have swept across Central Asia, the Middle East, occupied Afghanistan and Iraq, and worked tirelessly to create a dense network of bases in the strategic arc. At the same time, far away from that central theater of active war or operations in foreign lands, we have begun to introduce military-style equipment and intelligence that has been more broadly used on American soil against American citizens today. America's war on terror and war on drugs and Al-Qaeda's jihad actually reflects similar style politics, almost mirrored strategies of the same imperialistic governments. I imagine that some people might be shocked that I make that comparison, that I might draw a similarity between our honored police departments and national security officials with Al-Qaeda. I contend that their efforts are not that dissimilar. How they are most similar is that each camp nationalizes violence. Most importantly, they enact violence in the name of national security. National security has become a catch-all for what it actually describes. What national security actually describes and how we develop policies around it is xenophobia, Islamophobia, racism, unfounded fear, misinformation, and the dissolution of American civil rights. These things are used as fuel to underpin this militarization of our daily life. It's a desire to manufacture and motivate arguments, whether from infidels or terrorists, that our society must sacrifice its civil liberties for its hyper-nationalist leaders. This sort of violence both draw from similar identities of self versus other, patriotism versus treason, hunter versus prey, masculinity versus femininity, and us versus them. What we see now is the battle being played out in real time on the bodies of ordinary American men and women by our law enforcement. That violence we see is perpetuated by mass media and populist entertainment. It includes, but is not limited to, our music, our movies, and our television shows. We expose ourselves in a constant repetitive loop of social media resources like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. It is also our news that plays a major role in perpetuating the idea that America continues to become more dangerous, when all evidence points to a safer nation with less crime than previous years. This is a cultural problem that we have to address on multiple levels of our humanity. It begs the question, how do we reconstruct the social values of so many people who are actually inspired by the dirty, hairy cop? I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. But even this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You have to ask yourself the question, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Then, of course, and it looks like I missed a piece here, but there's also the, I'll kind of add the John McClane, the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker cop, right? The guy who, his personal life is in shambles, his relationships don't work, his character is suspect, he's a little bit alcoholic and drugged. He still manages to save the city from terrorists bent on taking over America. We see these sorts of fantasy roles of our police departments perpetuating constantly. What we often fail to see is that it also comes with a healthy dose of questionable legality and abuse of power. In spite of these Hollywood superhero law enforcers, these characters almost always undoubtedly break the law themselves. Somehow, those questionable ethics and utterly clear violations of citizen civil rights have actually become the vision for how we perceive law enforcement. Or there's another narrative we are constantly exposed to when it comes to populist versions of law enforcement in our country. The movie kind of touched on that. We get into the technology realm. Technologically advanced genius crack experts masterfully diligently investigate murders and corruption. Rerun after rerun of the CSI-style crew who in a single hour solve the most convoluted and complex crimes through the use of surveillance, computer hacking, and more often than not, some abuse of power or violence. Interrogating barkeeps and service workers with precision, and collaborating with their small team of hyper-talented geniuses to sleuth impossible case after impossible case. This engenders that Minority Report stylized policing, that technology and the brilliance of law enforcement has become so advanced that they can robotically and methodically solve all crimes because there's no such thing as privacy anymore. When though one third of murder cases actually still go unsolved, and the most glaring evidence that there is no such policing, it doesn't exist, is the fact that amidst a 46-year-long drug war, nearly $100 billion worth of drugs are still sold in America annually. There just aren't cops like this. They just don't exist. We believe it. We believe that, you know, we're losing all our rights to some magical force that can watch and pinpoint every location. They just don't exist anymore. I believe that this and many other examples in what policing looks like can allow a country like America to formally watch Don Knotts and Andy Griffith's polite charm and wholesome love for their community suddenly contort our own visions of what law enforcement should actually look like. Gone is the dream of the Mayberry-esque township, where the only crimes that are committed are petty crimes and the occasional assault. Though in reality, that actually may in fact be a more accurate version of what many of our communities, if not most of our cities, actually looks like when it comes to crime statistics. So we've allowed ourselves to reconsider what the purpose of law enforcement is. I'm trying to illustrate and show a change of consciousness in our expectations of law enforcement, our fears, and to compare the way our culture around that has been transformed. We have watched, and I believe in my lifetime I have watched, certain elements of common sense dissipate into a fantasy. I say this to express that we have forgotten a desire for police officers to de-escalate or be committed to nonviolence in law enforcement. We've relinquished the principled approach of protect and serve law enforcement to diligently supporting shoot first, ask questions later. In this, it has allowed the relationship to erode into a prevalent fear-mongering and even suspicion of our own neighbors. Many people believe that an officer-friendly exists. Some believe that the principal relationship that exists between all communities and their officers, however many people know that not to be true. There are people in our communities today that have never believed or experienced that sort of relationship with their police or even their nation. There's another experience. There's another entirely different reality that often gets lost in the reproductions we are fed. Some people are actually familiar with the typical no-holds-barred Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie hero action star cop. Some people actually know that version of policing. They actually know that officer. They have actually run into that cop. The one some of us only see in the glorified movie and television screens. They see in their communities heavily armed police who they do not recognize and do not live in their community. They know police who, through smashed windows and stop and frisk policies, cannot be trusted to keep their children safe, free from harassment or harm. They see communities where a mass exodus of human assets get taken away in shackles and put in cages for lengthy mandatory terms with no tangible rehabilitation. They know distrust, violations of civil rights, and the cost of constant threat of violence. They know it and experience it while witnessing it being legally justified by the state. Many of us actually believe we know what police work looks like. Many of us believe that the most integral duty and the most prevalent facet to the work of a police officer is that every day they are faced with extreme levels of danger and hysterically violent criminals. The sort of violent, hardened criminal that wants nothing more than to kill a citizen. That all day they might actually have to battle, even in Winona, Minnesota, a neighbor who would suddenly snap and murder everyone on their block. I believe that if we believe that, then we may also believe that it might require American cities to field a local police officer capable of battling armies of marauding Tony Montanas every day. We have become numb to our open and profuse pathology of abuse of power and consummate violence in our culture. We have meandered through these examples in a way that has distorted our visions of what that role and purpose of our local and federal law enforcement actually is. In turn, we envision our own particular brand of justice and visualize how we might individually elicit law and order. And that is a dangerous crossing for the culture of policing. The birth and development of American police can be traced to a multitude of historical, legal, and economic conditions. The institution of slavery and the control of minorities, however,
were two of the more formidable historic features of American society shaping early policing. Slave patrols and night watches later became modern police departments. Initially, their inception and design was to control the behaviors of minorities. That is the first intersection between law enforcement, race, and economics. It is not uncommon for settlers to appoint Indian constables to police their Native American populations. This is a picture of Native American Police Unit in Fort Thompson, South Dakota, which is now the area of Crow Creek Reservation. The St. Louis Police also were actually originally founded to protect residents from Native Americans in that frontier city. Like many Southern police departments, they began as slave patrols. In 1704, the colony of Carolina developed the nation's first slave patrol. What was the slave patrol's purpose? It's simple. They helped to maintain the white supremacists. Their purpose was to ensure and perpetuate the racist economic order of slavery. Their job description was that they were to assist the wealthy landowners in recovering and punishing slaves who were considered property. As Turner G. Capacity and Van Diver remarked, and I quote, "The literature clearly establishes that a legally sanctioned law enforcement system existed in America before the Civil War with the express purpose of controlling the slave population and protecting the interests of slave owners. The similarities between slave patrols and modern American policing are too salient to dismiss or ignore. Hence, the slave patrol should be considered a forerunner of modern American law enforcement." To believe that the essential function of police fundamentally changed and that elements of their purpose was entirely reevaluated after the Civil War would be naive at best. After Reconstruction, history witnesses that while many states developed a new mission for the purpose of law enforcement, we also saw law enforcement splintered in very much the same way the United States had it for the Civil War. It was a crazy time for America. Some people, Democrats started calling themselves Republicans, Republicans started calling themselves Democrats. It's wild. The rise of vigilante groups who resisted Reconstruction was profuse. As these slave patrols split into different ideologies, the result was extreme violence against people of color. Vigilantes, by definition, have no external restraints, and so these lynch mobs had a justified reputation for hanging minorities first and asking questions later. The most infamous vigilante group, of course, was the Ku Klux Klan. It started in the 1860s. The Klan was notorious for assaulting and lynching black men for transgressions that would not be considered crimes at all had a white man committed them. Finally, in 1871, Congress passed the Ku Klux Klan Act, which, because of law enforcement's involvement, that's the most important part, with the infamous group. This legislation, however, did not stem the tide of racial or ethnic abuse that persisted in the 1960s. So I wanted to touch on something in the form of little Minnesota historical relevance. Lynching occurred across the country, not just in the South. The picture I'm about to show is disturbing because it's of a lynching. It has been part of the American lexicon to associate lynching to and deep-seated racism as particularly Southern problem. It's not. There's a history of racism, lynching, and police-sanctioned racism that existed in all corners of our nation. While we may not get an opportunity in public schools to be made aware of this historical reality, I feel it is imperative we recognize this history has not only been relegated to the slave-owning states. As a sidebar, I also feel in this discussion about militarization of police and economics that we should not be so privileged to be able to avert our gaze from the problem as it exists. The difficult and grotesque nature of racism is that it is the subject that we've all too readily been accustomed from talking or seeing or discussing. This is true historically and in the present. I think I'm a little behind here, so I'll just kind of explain it as quick as I can. The morning of June 5th, the Duluth Police Chief John Murphy received a call from James Sullivan. James Sullivan's father saying black circus workers held basically his son and his wife hostage, robbed them and raped his wife. So the police chief went out, and this is all in Duluth, went out and lined up the circus workers, 150 of them, roustabouts, food service workers, people set up the tent, and had Sullivan and Tuscan identify their attackers. The police ended up arresting 6 black men in connection with the rape and robbery, but the rape claim, of course, as we might expect, was coming from questionable rationale. The doctor that did the examination said the next morning said there was no evidence of rape. Newspapers actually printed about the alleged rape in Duluth, and the rumors spread throughout the town that Tuscan had died as as a result of the raid. Through the course of the day, a mob estimated between about 1,000 people or more, up to 10,000 maybe, formed outside the Duluth County Jail, broke into the jail, and beat and hung the accused. That's the picture that you see there. The Duluth police were ordered not to use their guns. They fought the mob off with their hands and water hoses. They seized Elias Clayton, Elmer Jackson, and Isaac McGahee, and found them guilty of Tuscan's rape in a sham trial. The 3 men were taken to First Street and 2nd Avenue East, where they were beaten and hanged. The next day, the Minnesota National Guard arrived at Duluth and took them to St. Louis County. So I've admittedly digressed a little from what I'm trying to express. What I'm trying to convey is that police, race, and economics are intrinsically entwined, even in that lynching. I'm making an effort to point out these interconnected historical realities as to how our country developed a law enforcement system built first on the oppression of people of color. It shows a relationship to the subject before us in the ability for law enforcement to continue this systematic violence. It has been part of our nation's identity. As a society, this convergence has been significantly bolstered now by the growing trend of militarization and can be traced back through a number of moments in our nation's history. This has existed in the long-term escalation of policing and use of force communities in communities of color. Through a massive expansion of over-policing, the effects has meant the focus has become a constant application of using petty crime offenses to lead to imprisonment of a massive number of people. The drug war and mandatory sentencing are intimately entwined and essential to the growth of the prison industrial complex. So as a nation, we've experienced an explosive increase in imprisonment. It would be important to note again here that this is not the first time that law enforcement was deeply embedded in the racial politics of America, but here it is. We can connect the current expansion of militarized police force to it, and it's always been part of the American policing. The current drift towards militarization has its roots in the 1960s, and the government response to the social unrest that swept the nation at the time. An example was the development of special weapons and tactics, or SWAT teams. Their development was in reaction to the Watts riots in Los Angeles. It began a movement in policing that relied more and more on military tactics, training, and equipment. In the early 1980s, SWAT teams' use changed as well. We kind of talked about that in the movie. Search and arrest warrants related to drug cases accounted for a significant increase in SWAT deployments. According to some of my research, estimates of that increase over the last 15 years was as high as 1,300% more use of SWAT teams. The practice of donating unused military equipment to local governments began in 1997. The language creating a program for it was included in an otherwise unremarkable defense budget authorization called the 1033 program. Again, it will be mentioned that. Under the 1033 program, as it's called, the Department of Defense publishes a list of surplus equipment that is available to local governments. But the turning point, as with so many issues, came after 9/11. Since the 90s, the Defense Department has donated some $5 billion worth of equipment. Much of it non-lethal items and office supplies to local governments, but the overall value of military equipment acquired by police forces is actually much higher. Local governments have received approximately $34 billion in grants from the Department of Homeland Security to buy their own military equipment from private suppliers. That brings the total to $39 billion, more than the entire defense budget of Germany. So I need to conclude with these thoughts. Militarization of police is intrinsically tied to race and economics. The police existence is owed to a desire to control minority populations even before considering criminality. Where militarization occurs most frequently is in neighborhoods where we have managed as a culture to develop conflicting ideas on what that community needs to survive. While the communities themselves demand economic opportunities, better schools, affordable housing, less discrimination, and a living wage, we instead, as a country, have spent billions on everything but what those communities have pleaded for. Our nation's response has been to fall prey to a rhetoric that supports the heavily militarized and violent cop, the irrational belief that violent crime is growing, and the only remedy is to enforce laws with equal or greater violence. The narrative of protect, and serve has been conferred into statements from police leadership like, "My job is to make sure my officers go home to their families at night." A far cry from simply keeping our communities safe, and a very distant association to an officer putting his life in harm's way to protect at all costs every American citizen. When police hire military training advisors, we will expect them to begin seeing the public as an enemy. The police capacity to organize and distribute state-sponsored violence, as well as the ability to shape its institutional appearance, and while doing so, impacts issues of civil rights. It also affects domestic order and the quality of political life in our democracy. This amazing documentary is a cautionary tale about the tide of militaristic thinking that is to besiege our culture when addressing law enforcement within our humble communities. We have slowly started to believe the fear-mongering and nationalistic fervor of elected leaders who are completely detached from the actual needs of the people. We need to devise ways to improve the health of communities, not bolster police with military-grade equipment. We absolutely need to ensure that officers have the training, equipment, supervision, policy, staffing, and other resources needed to avoid and prevent deadly force incidents. But ultimately, communities should be policed the way they want to be policed. We need to fundamentally change the way we perceive the role of law enforcement and police in our communities. There is no such thing as black crime. I felt I really need to say that. Violent crime has an equation. Violent crime is committed against people who you intimately associate with or who are in your vicinity. Additionally, poverty and lack of resources are directly associated to the rise of crime in certain communities. The existence of police is absolutely dependent on the presence of a growing gap between those who have and those who do not. That is why most crime is committed, and that is why the police exist. Lastly, I'm going to say one way in which we can do this, okay, is that, and I'm working with the Rochester Police Department and the police chief. I actually had some of the slides. He offered his PowerPoint to me, but I just wanted to talk about the idea that we need to change state policy built around the language of the use of deadly force by a peace officer. Changing the legal requirements for the use of deadly force from reasonable at the moment deadly force is used to unavoidable, including everything that led up to the fatal encounter. States have the power to mandate their own policies governing the use of force under federal guidelines. Now, I'd love to speak more on that, but I'm more than certain I'm over time. I'm close. I actually got 1 minute. Amazing. I actually wrote down this. I don't really need to, but I think I'd just like to finish with the idea that Minnesota and states really do have that power within ourselves legislatively. As long as we match it with the federal guidelines of what we want our police forces to look like, that connection between the idea of the moment a police officer kills a citizen, the language is built in our state policy and our state statute, so that there really is no way we'll ever get a conviction. The idea that we would say they feared for their life, or really any rationale for why a cop might kill somebody pretty much guarantees that we won't be able to get an indictment. So one of the ways that we can start to curtail this idea of militarization and police brutalization would be to actually change our statute language to something that looked more like you can't kill anybody unless you absolutely have to. Something that looks more like the UN, world law. I don't expect all of a sudden we're going to adopt the world court law anytime soon, but more like a different standard for the use of force and deadly force. But that's it. We should take a question.
I have a mic here, so whoever